Hey everyone, it's Dorothy with crazyforcrust.com and welcome back to my kitchen. Today we are continuing our tip series and talking about brown sugar. Now, brown sugar, I use this in almost every cookie recipe. I use it in tons of other recipes too. It's actually my favorite. I like it more than granulated sugar because it's more flavorful. And brown sugar is something that you can just keep in your pantry all year long. I always buy light brown sugar because that's usually what recipes call for is light brown sugar. They should specify light or dark. Sometimes if I just say brown sugar, it means light brown sugar, or you can use either one. I always just keep light brown sugar on hand. The color of light brown sugar varies depending on brand. I usually will just buy the store brand. I love buying it at Costco or Sam's Club because it comes in these huge bags. So when you're storing brown sugar, you want to store it in an airtight container because brown sugar is a little bit wetter, it's a little bit sandier, and if too much air gets in there, it will dry out. For storing brown sugar, I highly recommend using an airtight container like this, some sort of pantry storage, some sort of airtight Tupperware Rubbermaid container of some sort. It's really important because if too much air gets in there, it's gonna dry it out and get all brittle, and it's gonna be really hard to work with. So when you buy a bag of brown sugar, transfer it into an airtight container. Sometimes if you buy it, say it's on sale and you buy a whole bunch and you go to your pantry and it's all crusty and it's hard, and you're like, oh my gosh, now I have to throw it away. You can save your brown sugar, and that's one of the things we're gonna talk about today. To save brown sugar that has hardened, it's really simple. Put it into a container like this, or even like a Ziploc bag, and then with it, if it happens to be too hard, regular bread. So this is just a regular loaf of white bread. You can use the heel of the bread, or you could just use a piece, cheap bread. You don't have to use anything expensive. Just use the piece of bread and pop it in the container, seal it up, give it a day or so, and you'll notice that it softens. The moistness in that bread will soften the brown sugar. So that's a really great tip because sometimes that happens. Sometimes I feel like some brands of brown sugar, they just dry out faster, or sometimes you just don't use it for a few months and then it's kind of crunchy and hard. And that's a great tip for saving your brown sugar. They also sell these little terracotta things that you can like soak in water and put in there, but I find the bread is just easier because I always have bread at home. So that's how you can save your brown sugar. Let's talk about how you measure brown sugar. So when you measure brown sugar, it is something that should be packed. Now, most things when you measure them, you don't want to pack them into the measuring cup, but with brown sugar that you do. And so what I like to do is I just take my measuring cup and I scoop it in here like so. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna get your hand in there and you're gonna press it as hard as you can to pack it in there. If you don't have enough, you can use a spoon or re-scoop it. It'll get on your hands, that's okay. And then once you have your packed brown sugar, it's all nice and compact, and you can just dump it out into your recipe. Now, if you're measuring with a scale, which I highly recommend, if you use a scale, again, I like to use a separate bowl on top of my scale instead of just measuring directly into a recipe. In case you add too much, it's an easy way. I just have one bowl that I use like the entire time I'm baking, and I just dump everything into it and then I add it back to the scale. So make sure you put it on your scale, hit the 0 or the tar button to zero out. That doesn't mean the scale is 0, it means it's subtracting the weight of that bowl. So I'm gonna zero this out, and I have it in grams. That's what I usually use. You can use ounces, but I find grams more exact. It's way easier that way. And you're going to just dump it into your bowl. Nice, comes out nice and compact. Now, a half of a cup of brown sugar should weigh 100 grams. So when I just did that, it's 130. So actually a half a cup, it should be 100, it's 130. So I'm using too much. So that's how you know that weighing is really, really important. But a little of extra, even if you didn't have a scale, a little extra is not gonna be a big deal. What I do if it's too much, I just kind of take some out to get it to 100. And usually 100 for a half of a cup is kind of the norm for brown sugar or for granulated sugar. So that is how you measure brown sugar. If you wanna make your own brown sugar, it's super easy by just adding molasses and sugar, and I will link that post in the comments. I don't love making my own. I feel it's so much easier to just buy it, but in a pinch, you can definitely make your own. That's everything that you need to know about storing and measuring brown sugar. Keep watching for even more tips.